and it is Magic Mondays. How you guys doing? So glad to have you with us here today on this amazing Monday in October. And of course, we always have with us the other wizards on the show. Bring up my man, the myth, the legend, Jason Vaz.
What's up, everyone? I'm super excited for today's Magic Mondays. But before we get into that, I have to introduce my co-host, Marlon Yeeman.
Thanks for the warm introduction, Jason. How's everyone doing today?
It's a little seductive, isn't it?
Very seductive. I need to get me one of those mics.
Well, it's great to have both you guys with us today.
You muted yourself, Neil.
Yeah, somehow you muted yourself.
All right, guys. So we have no idea what Neil's saying, but today on Magic Mondays, we're going to teach you how to cast spells because we are the wizards of real estate.
Let's give Neil a second to unmute himself here.
So just so you guys understand,
there we go, unmuted just like that. Okay, I have no idea why it muted, but maybe I was just talking too much trash. I was just going to say that last week we had Thanksgiving, and so did you guys have a good Thanksgiving?
Yeah, I got a couple pounds I got to shed off because of last weekend, so went to the gym this morning.
Nice. Okay, well, great. Well, guys, look, there's lots of stuff that's been going on, and I want to bring up some of those things a little later on when we bring our guest today, Gary Hibbert, onto the show. Gary, we'll talk a little bit more with Gary, and we'll get to introduce him to all of you, the viewers. But anything you guys want to bring up right now, Jason? Anything going on in the world of real estate on your end?
It's just more of the same. It's a crazy market out there. We are seeing, like, I'm looking at homes that are selling at prices that I never thought they would really reach in the near future. Little background: homes that were selling for about $6.25, maybe $5.90, around that price. They're going in the mid 800s now. It's a crazy time to be buying. Obviously, the cost of borrowing has dropped significantly, but yeah, I didn't think I'd see this. I really did think that the new stress test would have some kind of effect, but tried and true, we're about 3 months in of having it, and it doesn't seem to have slowed down anything. In fact, a lot of those multiple offer deals have closed. The money has transferred hands. So yeah, I think we're going to see more gains as we keep moving forward.
Interesting. I know one of the concerns that people have is, are we going to see inflation creeping up here? It's been a hot topic in the news, whether the Fed in the States is going to be raising the rates, and of course, whether here in Canada, the Bank of Canada will be raising the rates. Marlon, any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I actually have a couple of slides that kind of address that. So yeah, the Fed did make some announcements last week. It's a quick 4 slides, so maybe I'll just start here, I guess. So I mean, if you're in the market, if you haven't heard from your mortgage broker or your bank person, interest rates did pop back up last week. The Bank of Canada basically and the U.S. Fed have the Bank of Canada has already started tapering their bond buying, meaning they're not buying the bonds which artificially hold the rates down. In the U.S. last week, the U.S. Fed said that they will start to taper. And shockingly, the U.S. also said that they believe that they will raise their rates earlier in 2022 than they expected. And as well, instead of raising by a quarter point, a lot of them are estimating that they're going to raise by 0.5. So things are really looking up south of the border in the U.S. Having said that, that put pressure here on the Canadian bond yields in Canada. So we saw rates rise. Last week, you probably get, if you're purchasing with less than 20%, you could get a rate at 1.99. That's now starting somewhere around 2.34. If you're looking for a mortgage, purchasing a home that's over $1 million, you could have got maybe 2.29 last week. It's now 2.64 at Scotia. So there have been some dramatic rises with some of the lenders. There are some lenders who haven't risen their rates yet. So there is time for people to take advantage of this, but rates are definitely on the rise, both on the fixed side, and it looks like we're definitely going to see increases on the variable rates next year. Quick example here, if you just want to look historically, this is what we call the 5-year Canadian bond yield. 5-year Canadian bonds in Canada are priced off the 5-year Canadian bond. So as you can see, this piece of October here, you're seeing a sharp trajectory in rates. That again is just all the talk by the US Fed about decreasing bond purchases. The Canadian government has reduced their bond purchases. They've also gone a little bit more hawkish or bullish. I mean, just looking outside of the events going on around us, everything's starting to reopen. I was downtown over the week, and yeah, as long as you got your certificate, everything's fully packed. Tables are beside each other. People are schmoozing. So I would say the economy is well on its way, unless we have some kind of round 5 or 4 of whatever this COVID stuff is. But everything's looking to return normal. Doug Ford is talking about returning to normal. So I would definitely expect to continue seeing rates rise, but we never know what's going to happen in the future. Okay, so interesting thing, variable rates haven't changed because, they're not supposed to change till next year. So we're seeing 60% of new mortgages entering to variable rates. That's because you can still have a variable rate at 1.35 to 1.5 versus the 2.39. So people who are shopping based in rates may be attracted to this. There is one word of warning though, when variable rates rise, they're probably going to rise quicker than we think. So you do want to be aware of why you're choosing this product. You're not choosing it for the lower rate. You're choosing it for flexibility. Variable products have ultimate flexibility, allow you to sell your property with less penalties, refinance your properties with less penalties, makes you a little bit more agile in case you need to do things with the property. You would choose a fixed mortgage if you want more stability and you don't want to think about changing payments and you just want that stability because you're going to be here for a long time. So, make sure you have a conversation as to what rate you're choosing. Don't choose based on the lowest number. You can actually end up hurting yourself more. Choose it based upon your plans for building a portfolio, selling your property, moving on up, or whatever it may be. So right now, if anyone's in the market, a couple of clients that you should probably reach out to your broker. If you're looking in to buy in the next 120 days, we can lock in rates right now before they move. That'll take you well into January 2022. Renewals, your lenders probably reached out to you maybe 3 to 6 months. Just so you know, everyone knows this is a well-based fact. All the renewal rates you get from the big 5 banks are always priced 0.15% higher than the best rates out there. So definitely talk to your mortgage broker or competitor to try and get yourself a better rate. If you're looking to refinance, same thing. Now's a good time before the rates go up. And anyone who's in variable rates from maybe a year or 2 years ago, now may be a good time to start a conversation and look at the possibility of locking in. Because if the fixed rates start to go up, you're going to be in for a payment shock, basically, if you have to lock in at this rates. And that's it.
I love the pineapple in behind the background of that slide there. You just kind of got that in there.
Can't take credit for that. That's the marketing department, but yeah.
That's great. Well, look, I thank you very much, Marlon, for bringing that out, for talking about those things. Definitely, if you're looking to get more info with regards to mortgages, Marlon is the man. But we want to talk a little bit more today as we're about to bring in Gary. We're going to be talking about the world of investing. We're going to be talking about not necessarily just investing, but where to find deals, how to identify them in the real estate market. And Gary I've known Gary for many years, and Gary has recently been on the Everyday Investor show with Rav Tor and Sarah Larby. And of course, Gary also has his own show, his own podcast called Real Talk with Gary Hibbert. And he's had all sorts of individuals on that show. And Gary has been around in the world of real estate investing as a realtor, owns brokerages, you name it, mentoring. He does mentorship for people. And he's just an all-around good guy. Let's bring him in, ladies and gentlemen, Gary Hibbert. Gary, good to have you with us today.
Hey guys, how's it going? Thanks for having me here.
Glad to have you.
It looks like you got yourself a good deal there in a commercial space. I mean, man, look at that.
Yeah, you like that
room that you're in.
It's well lit. I like the commercial real estate. You know that.
Right. Good stuff.
And so Gary, you've been on fire for the last number of years. I mean, you've been in real estate for many years now, even with the banks prior to, but
Yep.
you know, now and you've gotten into, obviously, you a realtor, you've got brokerages, you do mentoring when it comes to investing in real estate, private lending. You've done a whole entire gambit. I've got to ask you this question, if I can jump right into it, because I know we're going to talk about where to find deals and how to identify them. But with you being in the industry for so long, recently CBC Marketplace did a little piece where, and because you own brokerages, I think this is important, where they went out and they actually caught a number of realtors
Yep.
steering their clients towards deals that had better commissions rather than what was best focused for a client's needs. Do you have any thoughts on that as a broker?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think it's obviously wrong, right? The unfortunate thing is, I think in any industry, you're going to have people out there that are going to be looking out for the best interests. And so I think it always comes down to, partnering and knowing who you're partnering with. And if you don't know who to, then you've got to maybe ask people that have been in the industry for a very long time and get some recommendations there, right? But it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate that people, only look out for the best interest and not look out for not only the interest for their clients, but also, I think, the best interest for the entire industry, because then it turns around and gives everybody a bad name, right? So it's unfortunate that you get bad apples in the industry, but these things do happen, right? So,
well, I think
jump
that's
in on that one there, Marlon.
Yeah, go ahead, Jason. Jump in.
So I'm a bit on the fence on that one, and I'll tell you why.
Yep.
So for starters, the study, the way it was presented and the way it was, so ultimately the way it was presented, people was just like, oh my God, realtors are only steering you towards deals that pay high commissions. But then when you read into it, it's a little different. Like, they went undercover. They were not under contract with any of these agents. So really, these agents didn't owe them anything. They were not clients. It was all customer service. And I think that's something that we do need to speak to our audience about. We need to address that. If you call me up off the blue, off of my listing, my job is to make sure you spend the highest amount of money on to my clients. Like, my loyalty is not to the average buyer. My loyalty is to the seller. Now, be that as may, like, if you say, hey, you know what, this guy found out I was approved for $1 million, the seller would have taken 900, but he made me spend the whole $1 million. That's my job. Now, if you sit down with me and hire me to help you buy a place, and then I do that, of course, there's an issue there. I think CBC, they now, let's be very, very real about this, that the Toronto Real Estate Board has come forward condemning this action. But there is something to be noticed there. They did come undercover. They did contact agents just to show one. And it seemed like they were looking for them to do it, almost like they were trying to catch them doing something wrong. I don't think it was very forthcoming. I think it was very skewed.
Well, I think that, first of all, CBC Marketplace, we know, does the undercover bit. They do it in a lot of different areas. The part that they pointed out, and I think this is important to address because for people's perception, right? Because what they really pointed out was there was a property that was not being represented by a realtor, but it was on MLS. And what they found was, even when they were posing as a buyer, mm-hmm. and they asked about the property, mm-hmm. the realtors that they caught actually came out and said, "Oh yeah, no, that's they wouldn't negotiate, or they made up some stuff," which is why
an excuse. And the reality is they don't owe them anything. That's what we need to understand here, is that they didn't hire those agents. They inquired. There's a very big difference there. You know what I mean? Like, and that's where there's no misrepresentation there. There's no, it's a gray area. Like if somebody calls me, like calls my phone right now as we're having this and asks about a property, and I'm in the middle of something and I say I don't really care to talk about it, I don't owe it to that person. And I say I'm in the middle of something, I'll talk to you later. Now, if my client inquires about something and I do that, I've done something wrong. I've misrepresented, you know what I mean? And that's where I find the gray area is. Now, the reality of it all is that these were for sale by owners. They're not offering a commission. If one of my clients, actual clients, they've hired me to help them buy a place, inquired about a property that is not paying commission, first I would tell my guys that, hey, listen, you've signed up with me. They're not paying commission, so you're going to have to pay it. So whatever price we end up paying, then you have to pay plus because you got to pay me. Do you still want to go with this property or not? That's the right way to do it.
Yeah. Now I didn't fully get immersed in this whole entire article or report that came out in the news there, but this had to do with FSBOs as well too. Correct?
Yeah, it was mirror posting, guys.
Yeah. So let me talk about the FSBOs as well too. Right? Is that a lot of times, and I think a lot of realtors don't go towards the FSBOs because they believe that they won't, or the for sale by owners won't pay them.
That's right.
I will be very honest with you. I always go and call the for sale by owners because most of them will pay you.
Yeah.
Most of them will give you 2.5% or 2.25% or 2%. But I think beginning in realtors, or sometimes even in realtors have been around in the game for a number of years, they see will only pay up to $1. And then they just assume that they're not going to pay them. But a lot of times, and I would say probably almost like 90% of the time, they will pay you a good, the going commission rate.
They will, and it's very true. Now the reality is that if it's a client, that's what I said. If it's a client, you go the extra mile. If it's someone calling you off a side call saying, "Hey, can you show me this thing?" We're all busy right now. Like this is like, let's face it, realtors rarely have a spare moment. They don't even really want to work with buyers. Like there's a lot of things to consider in this study. And I felt that it was skewed. I felt it was really skewed. I felt that they were looking for a certain result. They wanted to make headlines, and they did. They were successful. I don't buy it. Someone called me today saying, hey, I want to look at a house. I'm reluctant for that and that alone, just because of how hard it is for buyers right now. It is like what you're committing to help a buyer is 6 months of heartbreak. And it puts an emotional strain in the residential section anyway. So for somebody to call, like you're always going to be met with a little bit of reluctancy. So I don't know. I felt that the marketplace for plumbers and stuff like that, you guys have done a good job. This one was a little bit odd for me.
CBC Marketplace, Jason Vaz is putting you on notice right there.
Interview me,
So Gary, let's get to what we really want to talk about, which is where you can find deals. I mean, this is almost a taboo word at this point, where you can find deals and how you can identify them. Now, is there a certain segment that you're talking about in terms of, because I know you and I always talk about when it comes to multifamily, but are you saying that people can still find deals when it comes to residential real estate?
Absolutely. We're still finding deals, and we're still finding deals on the MLS system, right? So I guess maybe I'll give you a little bit of a history and kind of where things have progressed and where things are today. And so when I first started investing in real estate, I was, buying investment properties in Whitby. I was buying them in Oshawa. And when those numbers started not to make sense, and not so much not making sense, but where could I find better, higher cash flowing properties? Because one of the things that I always did in the beginning was that I wanted to know where was the next best marketplace. Because when things started to get saturated, I wanted to stay at least 1 to 2 steps ahead of the competition or other realtors or other investors. And so, you go back into the 2011, 2012, we started then investing out in Curtis and Bowmanville and Newcastle, where people are like, you're crazy. That's way too far from Toronto. But here's what we did is we started taking a look at, well, what is happening in that particular marketplace? Walmart showed up in Bowmanville. And listen, when I had started Smart Home Choice, which was our real estate investment education company, I didn't have a research and development department in that company, but Walmart does. And so Walmart ran their numbers, they did their analysis, they took a look at what was happening in Bowmanville, and they made the analysis that this was the next best place to kind of move into. And so when you see somebody big like that moving into a market, well, then you know what, that makes sense for me. The other thing as well too, and I don't know if we can swear in here or not, but there's a saying called "follow the shit." And really what that is when you start seeing them putting sewer lines, you know that they're going to start building and moving into more residential development in those particular markets. So let's kind of fast forward a little bit now. And so now you see Oshawa, you see Curtis, you see Bowmanville, you see now not only investors moving into these markets, but now you see families from Toronto, maybe even Mississauga move out into the east, right? And so I'm talking more on the east as opposed to the west because I'm just not familiar with it. But you're starting to see this expansion of families moving further out. And so then when we started seeing that happen, where now you've got other investors and realtors moving into those markets, then we're like, okay, well, what's the next best place? And so then we went into Peterborough and took a look at that particular market. Now, we're not just hoping and praying. We're actually going in there. We're sitting down. We're having a conversation with the city. We're doing webinars with them. We're understanding what's happening in that marketplace. We're taking a look at vacancy. What are the jobs like? But then we always do this as well, too, is that before we actually take our investors into a particular market, I'll always purchase in that market to really get a good feel of what's happening there. And Peterborough was a fantastic market. And so fast forward, we started in 2017, and to where it is now, you're starting to see a lot more realtors, investors moving into these particular marketplace because the numbers make sense. The other thing as well, too, I'm taking a look at population growth. I'm taking a look at job growth. I'm taking a look at transportation. And so there are very simple things you can look at as well, too, like the 407, someone that was shooting across the top. Well, I paid very close attention to that because that's like almost like building like another artery to your heart. And so when you've got another transportation mode like the 407 shooting across the top, well, that allows families, that allows people to get into a particular marketplace a lot quicker and a lot faster. So now where are we today? Today, Peterborough's still a hot market, but now I'm looking at where do I move to next? Because we don't really need to yet, but I'm always looking at the next marketplace. And so what we looked at is now there's a Kawartha areas. And if you're not sure if you're familiar with that, you've got places like Lakefield, Buckhorn, Bobcaygeon. And so we're really looking at those markets now. And yes, they are smaller markets, but we've moved into them with a few of our investors, and they've done incredibly well. And the rents have been great out there because a lot of families that are trying to get into Peterborough, the rents are incredibly high. And so they've got to move out. But those families are willing to drive back into Peterborough to do whatever shopping or work or whatever it is that they've got to do. And so people say, well, I would never want to live in Bridgenorth. Well, you don't need to, right? There's other families that are more than happy and love those areas, but maybe they can't stay and play in Peterborough. So they got to move a little bit further out. So that's what we're looking at.
Wow. So let me ask you, as a broker, are you teaching this to your realtors?
Absolutely. And so every single Thursday, whether it be a lunch and learn or 8 p.m. event, we're bringing in local experts. We're bringing in some of our investors who have actually gone out and taken action so that not only the realtors can learn from us, and from the investors, but also other investors as well, too, or other mortgage agents or realtors. It doesn't matter. Anybody that's wanted to learn how to invest in real estate and where we currently investing in, that's what we do every single Thursday. And it's always just about sharing, right? Like I know when I had that 9-to-5 job, I came from a scarcity mindset. And I think it was because, you're working with your peers and you're trying to climb that corporate ladder. But when you're climbing that corporate ladder, yes, hey, I'm like, hey, Neil, yeah, here's a little bit on, what I can teach you and share with you, but I can't give you everything because I don't want you to leapfrog over me. But now when you're in this real estate investing world, you realize that there's so much to that people are willing to share and give. And it's really more of a not a scarcity mindset, but a mindset of abundance. And when you get into that type of a mindset, you realize that wow, there really is enough for everybody. There really is.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So So now you've kind of given us sort of some of the where in terms of that you're looking right now, and you're just using a little bit of a crystal ball, following the sewer pipelines, which I love that infrastructure is really important. But now I want to ask on that investing side. I know you also have a mentorship program. How does that differ from just everything else that you do, just teaching people normally? What differentiates people that way?
Well, I think the big difference when you get now into the mentorship program, I think mentorship is incredibly important, is that like the real estate education piece is just really understanding how real estate investing works. How do you find a deal? How to run the numbers, right? So you're kind of getting more into the technical aspect of it. The mentorship is more on the mindset piece of it, which I think is probably even more important, because when I first started investing in real estate, what I realized was that the important thing was the mindset. And once I realized that it wasn't that I had to have money, it was that I had to learn how to attract money, because I didn't understand that in the beginning. Then I was like, well, hold on a second. There's a whole process in behind why some people are able to be successful while others are not able to be. And what was that difference, right? We all had 24 hours in a day, but why is it that somebody can have 500 doors while somebody, struggles after 5 years to have one door? What was the big difference? And over the years, what I've learned from the mentorship and the podcast and hanging out and talking with people that are where I want to be, they all say the same thing. It's mindset. It's discovering your why, and it's having a roadmap. And once you have those, then anything is really kind of possible. Then you realize that, hold on a second, I don't actually have to have the money in my bank account. That doesn't make any sense. But once you can grasp that concept, well, then now you never have to lust for money. All you have to do is figure out what is it that you want, and then you can achieve it. So the mindset, the mentorship piece is really what we kind of brought in about a year and a half ago, saying, here's what we've learned and accumulated over the last 11, 12 years of our journey. Let's condense it all within 6 months to teach you, what's the difference between money and currency, the history of money, where are things going, how to do joint ventures, how to use other people's money, where to find the deals, what type of investment strategies is good for you, taxes, account, all that stuff. And we put it all into a 6-month program so that when they're done, they can repeat that process over and over and over again.
Yeah. Well, for all the viewers, I should fully disclose that Gary is actually the one who got me into social media in the first place, for real, because you had me on your show, Real Talk with Gary Hibbert, and you had me on there, and we talked about you had me on there talking about private lending, and completely opened up my world. And here we are on Magic Mondays having you on. So glad to have you there.
Yeah, and look at you now. Now you're crushing it. You're doing better than I am. It's incredible.
Well, I'm having fun. Who knew you could have this much fun? And I've got both Jason and Marlon along for the ride on Magic Mondays, and we keep it enjoyable and learning about real estate and having great guests like my man Gary Hibbert on the show. So,
and then you just hit something I think incredibly important as well too, is having fun.
Yeah.
When you can find something where you can have fun in, there's so much enjoyment in that. And a lot of people, and I don't know if I've talked to you about this before, Neil, but I think a lot of people think that I love real estate investing because I've got a real estate investment club. And, I've got a real estate podcast where mostly I'm talking about real estate investing, but it's more than that. Real estate investing has allowed me to be able to do what I'm doing today. It's just a vehicle. Now, there are some people out there that love it. Like they love chasing that next deal. They like finding, that next opportunity. But for me, what I enjoy doing is the podcast, learning from other people, sharing what I've learned. But real estate investing is not my passion. It to me, it's just bricks, mortar, dealing with tenants. There's issues that come along with it. But I don't wake up in the morning and get excited about it. Like, I'm not chasing deals anymore, but I am helping clients go out and purchase investment properties, because I do strongly believe that it's a good vehicle and it's a great way to protect people's wealth and more importantly, their energy and their time, especially the way that they're printing money. Because right now, the way that they're printing money, it's not that these homes are going up in value, it's the dollar is getting less valuable. And if people can understand that, see, the problem is there's a lack of financial education. So I don't blame people that don't understand this. It hasn't been taught. It's been purposely taken out of the schools. And so I say all that to say this: find something that is fun, number one, but number two, also understand financial education, because if you can understand that concept, then you'll know what's really happening and not rely on other people to get you to where you want to be in life.
Wow.
Love
Gold.
it.
Gold. All right. Well, look, we've reached our time, but before we do that, Jason, Marlon, any final questions from you guys?
Yeah, I got one question. I mean, you probably don't have time to answer it, but I'm saying when you take out your investors and stuff, are you focused more on cash flow properties, or are you focused more on, growth properties where you're gonna maybe flip it, jump into another one, or refi and buy, or is it long-term cash flow you're looking at? I'm just
Great
curious.
question. Really good question.
Customized. Yeah.
So one of the questions I get asked all the time is, is now a good time to invest? Because look at the way the market has been going. It's crazy, right? And real estate it comes in cycles. So here's what I recommend and I tell people to do: is now is always the best time to invest. So here's what you need to do: is just remove the speculation piece. So how do you remove the speculation piece? Don't worry about where the market is going. I tell people this all the time: do not worry about appreciation. Don't worry about it. So if you can take that piece out, well, then now all you have left to focus on is cash flow. And so if you focus on cash flow, then who cares if the market goes up or if it goes down? It's irrelevant to me, because then now rents don't go down. Rents continue to follow inflation. And so then you'll always win, right? So focus on cash flow and you'll always win.
Great words, great tips.
I can't agree more. Oh my goodness, I can't agree more. Thank you.
Yeah.
Smell out Marlon's equity speculative investing. No, one thing I really want to jump in on is I love the idea that Neil, you asked us earlier. Gary, you hit it on the head. We're not seeing inflation. We're in inflation. It's here right now.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Inflation's not around the corner. It's coming in right now.
And listen, inflation has been here. Well, I'll tell you where inflation started. Inflation started in 1971, where they took us off the gold standard. That's really where it all started. That is when the fiat currency just became garbage, right? That's what it is. And so then how do you protect yourself? By buying hard assets. And real estate, I think, is probably one of the best vehicles, right? So
just out of curiosity, Gary, do you have any clients that are purchasing real estate with Bitcoin or Ethereum or cryptocurrency, or you come across
not yet.
Like not yet.
And you know what? And I haven't gotten into Bitcoin or Ethereum yet. I do believe that there is something there. But I'm kind of focusing more on the real estate, because I think as long as I've got that, I'll be in a good place. But I don't think there's anything wrong with investors or clients or anybody putting a percentage of their portfolio in both of these. Well, I guess we can call them, I don't know if some people call them asset classes, but but I don't see there's anything wrong with that. But I don't know if I would put my life savings into those things yet.
Of course. Yeah.
Wow. Gary, love it. Great conversation as always. I know there's lots of different items different threads we could go down, but thank you so much for joining us on the show today. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks a lot, Neil, for having me here. I appreciate it, Marlon.
Nice
great meeting you. And this is a great show that you guys have, and continue to keep doing it. I think this is what people need to see and listen to, because this is what's going to help them, kind of navigate some of these murky waters that we're in right now, and that I think we're going to be in maybe potentially for the next year or two, right, until we find some type of a calm.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, guys, thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of Magic Mondays. On behalf of my co-hosts, Marlon Yee and Jason Vaz, and of course, our special guest today, Gary Hibbert. And of course, you can find links for Gary. We'll put it in the notes below. And guys, thank you so much for joining us today. We'll see you again next week on Magic Mondays. Take care.
Take care. Talk to you then.
All right. See you guys.